All right, guys, welcome back. So we are back on the new Thunder 255 MTS. We've covered TIG, we have covered MIG, both mild steel and aluminum, and today is my arch nemesis, stick welding. I am not a stick welder. I don't claim to be a stick welder, but I can stick a rod to plate from time to time. So let's go over the stick functions of this unit real quick. It does have quite a few features to it. Has a little Easter egg, which we'll explain in just a second when we get to the panel view. But we'll run some 7018. I've got some 332nd. It has not been in a rod oven for about 3 years, so it is some pretty crusty 7018. But it's a worst case scenario. A lot of guys don't have a rod oven for 7018, so it's a good show of what damp, humid rod that's not been in a rod oven will run like. And then we also have some 6010 because everybody always asks, will it run 6010? Yes, it will. We'll show you in a second. Let's get to the panel and let's run through some settings real fast. All right, so now we're on the panel. Let's take a look at what we got. Of course, we have our volts. That's going to be our OCV, our open circuit voltage, sitting right at 74 OCV. We're currently set to 86 amps. We have our anti-stick off, which for people like me, that is a good feature. Keeps the rod from sticking so hard. We also have VRD, the voltage reduction. That's if you're working in like close quarters or a wet environment, you don't shock yourself. From there, we have our rod type selection. So if you are going to run a cellulose rod like 6010, you do want to make sure you set it to the 6010 mode. This helps the machine know what you're trying to do, and it'll bump that OCV up and allow the 6010 not to cut out when you try to long arc it or you're whipping real hard. From there, we have a hot start. So we can go ahead and turn that off on 7018 or turn it down a little bit. We have our hot start time at half a second. Arc force is at 35%, which is typically what I like for 7018. It allows you to really jam the arc down into the weld pool and not have it cut out. So it'll actually bump your voltage up a little bit as you run that rod in to keep it from extinguishing the arc. So let's turn our hot start down just a little bit. We don't quite need it that hot. Let's go to 30%. So there you go. Obviously, stick's pretty simple. So let's go ahead. We'll throw on some PPE. We've got some 3/8 and some 1/4 inch plate. So we'll just run some fillet welds. This 332nd, 718, 86 amps. I might go up to 90 to let it melt in a little bit hotter. But let's get some gear on and we'll run a couple beads. We'll switch over to 6010 after that. Yep, that's 7018. All right, so like I said, we're going to bump up a little bit on our amperage. Let's go up to 90 amps. And let's run a fillet between, this is a 1/4 inch and some 3/8. So we'll do a little tack here. And let's run a little fillet weld and show you what this thing has. Love 7018. So nice smooth run. Of course, at go to tack with 7018, it burns that rod back and leaves some of the flux. So you got to tap it pretty hard sometimes to get that flux off. Grab my safety glasses real quick before we chip this flux. Thought you guys would catch me sleep. So not quite our pipe welder's slag peel. like everybody likes, but for an old TIG welder, she runs pretty decent. Said this rod has not been in a rod oven for at least 3 or 4 years, so it is about worst case scenario for 7018. It would probably run and start a lot better if we did have it sitting in a rod oven. But 718 runs nice and smooth. I didn't stick a rod. Got real close, but I didn't. So let's obviously 718, it's about one of the easiest rods to run. Everybody likes to see what it does with 6010 and trying to long arc it. So I'm going to set up a little more to the side and try to really whip it and show you guys this thing can maintain a pretty good arc length. So let's go to our panel real quick. So we're going to drop down here to rod type. We're going to scroll over to 6010. So now we're on 6010. Go back, we're at 90 amps. This is eighth inch 6010. So our 90 amps still should be pretty good. We'll give it a shot. If we need to bump it up a little bit, we can always come back and bump this up and make another run. So there we go, 6010. Does it run 6010? Definitely smells like 6010. So let's give this a little chip real quick. Let me get my safety glasses on, just so we don't get some wild hot slag in the eyes. So there we go, nice little 60-10 run. Said started up real good, had a pretty nice whip in and out of the puddle. So you can maintain a pretty long arc length on this thing. Of course, if you get, really crazy with it, it will cut out, but you can get about a 5/16, almost to 3/8 of an inch arc length, whipping it in and out of the puddle. So you can whip it pretty hard, still keep the arc nice and lit. But as far as a multi-process, we've kind of run through everything on the surface, like a 30,000 foot view on this unit. So we've done kind of an overview on the TIG now. We have a couple videos on the MIG side, and now running through 7018 and some 6010, just real basic run throughs. As we go along, we will get some more content where we dive deeper into the settings. Like I said, doing some of maybe like the 4TS, 2TS special settings on the MIG side, so you can get a hot start and a crater fill. But just nice little overview video showing you guys the MTS 255. So thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, be sure to hit me up.